Picture this, it's September, Apple walks onto that stage, and for the first time ever, they only have three iPhones to show you. No standard model, no budget option, just the most expensive iPhone lineup in the company's history, and a phone that, according to regulatory filings that dropped this week, has a battery that makes the 17 Pro Max look like a practice run. Here's the thing, I've been tracking every piece of data on the iPhone 18 Pro Max since the first supply chain leak in January. And there is one upgrade that every single reviewer is going to present to you incorrectly. We are going to fix that today. The iPhone 18 Pro Max is arriving in September 2026, and it is arriving without most of the iPhone lineup around it. Apple is reportedly planning to release only its premium models this fall, the iPhone 18 Pro, the iPhone 18 Pro Max, and a new foldable iPhone. That is a significant strategic shift, and it means every dollar decision this fall routes through the Pro. So we need to know exactly what you are paying for. Here is what the data actually says, including the one number that just came through official certification that nobody has properly explained yet. Let's start with the story that broke this week. New 3C certification filings for Apple's upcoming iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max confirmed their battery capacity months before launch. These filings are generally considered reliable because they involve regulatory paperwork. This is not a Weibo rumor. This is a manufacturer submitting product data to a government body. Here's what those filings say. The iPhone 18 Pro Max certification reveals a 5,391 milliamp hour battery for the China version and 5,567 milliamp hours for the US version. For context, the 17 Pro Max came in at 5,088 milliamp hours on the US model. That is a roughly 500 milliamp hour jump, going from 5,088 to 5,567 milliamp hours is roughly a 12% increase. Now, here's where most reviews will get this wrong. They will see 12% and call it a modest bump, but that framing completely ignores the other half of the equation. The battery gains come alongside the 2 nanometer A20 Pro chip, which should amplify real-world efficiency gains well beyond what the raw milliamp hour figures suggest. Think of it this way. You hired a more fuel-efficient engine and put a bigger tank in. Like, both things happen at the same time. But everyone is only talking about the tank. Leaks expect mixed-use runtime to clear 40 hours past Apple's stated 39 hours on the 17 Pro Max. And if that holds, this becomes the first iPhone that genuinely does not need a midday top-up for most heavy users. That is not a spec. That is a behavior change. I did a full breakdown of why the 17 Pro Max battery was actually being underrated by Apple's own marketing. But if you haven't seen that one, it gives you the full context for why this number matters so much. Link is below. Let's talk about the chip, because this is the part where the iPhone 18 Pro Max genuinely earns its existence. The iPhone 18 Pro models are getting Apple's first 2 nanometer chip with performance and efficiency improvements. Reports point to a 15% CPU boost and 30% better efficiency over the A19 Pro on 3 nanometer, 15% faster, 30% more efficient on a phone that is also getting a bigger battery. That combination does not come around often. And here is the part that almost nobody is talking about. The A20 chip will be packaged with TSMC's wafer-level multi-chip module technology. The RAM is integrated directly onto the same wafer as the CPU, GPU, and neural engine, rather than being adjacent and connected separately. This update could bring faster performance for Apple Intelligence and longer battery life, while also cutting down on the size of the chip itself to allow more space inside the phone for other components. So the chip is more powerful, more efficient, and physically smaller, which frees up internal space. That is not a minor detail. That is how you fit a 5,500 milliamp hour battery into a phone that is the same thickness as its predecessor. The upcoming iPhone 18 Pro Max is reportedly the same thickness as its predecessor, measuring in at 8.75 millimeters, same thickness, bigger battery, faster chip. Honestly, at some point, the engineering team just starts showing off. If you want the full hands-on breakdown the day this thing ships, hit subscribe because that video drops the morning units arrive. You won't find a faster real-world battery and performance breakdown anywhere. Okay, in everything I just told you about the battery and the chip, that is actually the second most important story in this phone. The camera upgrade coming up next is the thing that changes how you physically shoot, not just what the results look like. This is the one. Rumors point to at least one of the iPhone 18 Pro models gaining a variable aperture lens for the main camera. This would let iPhone users manually adjust how much light gets to the sensor, cutting down on overexposure and providing new customization options for lighting and depth of field. Now, Samsung has tried this, Huawei has tried this. Both of them made it a spec sheet feature that most users never touched. Here's why Apple's version is different. If the rumors are right, variable aperture entered production in April. When something clears production validation, it is not a maybe anymore, it is a plan. And Apple will not just expose aperture control as a manual toggle buried in Pro mode. That is not how they build software. They will build it into the computational photography stack, automatic in most scenarios, accessible for users who want control. That is the difference between a camera spec and a camera upgrade. The 18 Pro Max is tipped to get a variable aperture main lens, a physical mechanism that adjusts how much light reaches the sensor in different conditions. 348 megapixel sensors and a periscope telephoto complete the camera system. 348 megapixel sensors, variable aperture on the main lens, periscope telephoto. That is a camera platform, not just a camera. Let's be honest about the areas where Apple is holding the line. Apple will carry over the titanium frame and triple lens camera layout from the iPhone 17 Pro. This is not a redesign year. It is an internals year, and that is fine. The display stays at 6.9 inches. The dynamic island gets smaller as some Face ID components move under the display. A new dark cherry finish is replacing last year's orange, light blue, silver, and dark gray, round out the leaked palette. Dark cherry is an interesting call. It reads as confident, not flashy, and it will photograph beautifully in natural light. Now, the price. Apple's CEO Tim Cook recently said price hikes are unavoidable, but didn't detail by how much. IDC believes the iPhone 18 Pro Max could be up to $200 more expensive, which would put the starting price at $1,399. The Wall Street Journal suggested the iPhone 18 Pro itself could start at $1,399 because Apple's RAM costs have more than tripled. $1,399 for the Pro, not the Pro Max. If that lands, that is the conversation this fall. Not the camera, not the chip, the price tag. If you've made it this far, you already understand more about what drives iPhone pricing than the majority of people walking into an Apple store in September. And that matters because the price is going to feel like a shock for a lot of people, and you will know exactly why. So, where does this land? The iPhone 18 Pro Max is shaping up to be the most capable iPhone Apple has ever made by a real margin, not a marketing one. The 5,500 milliamp hour battery paired with the 2nm A20 Pro is genuinely new territory. Variable aperture on the main camera, if Apple executes the software the way they typically do, is the first camera hardware story since the original portrait mode that changes how you use the phone daily, not just what your photos look like. The design is familiar. That is a deliberate choice and an honest one. Apple is not going to redesign a body that works just to give reviewers something to film. The caveat, and this is a real one, is the price. The phone is getting bigger batteries, better cameras, a new chip, and it is going to cost more than any iPhone before it. If you are on an iPhone 16 or older, the cumulative gains are significant. If you are upgrading from a 17 Pro Max, the camera and battery are the only reasons to do it, and you need to decide if those are worth a potential $300 premium over what you paid last year. I covered exactly how to think about the upgrade decision in my iPhone 17 Pro Max 1 year later video. If you haven't seen it, that breakdown is still completely relevant to the decision you're about to make. Link is below. This phone is not for everyone. The price increase is real. The value per dollar depends entirely on what you are upgrading from, but the hardware is exceptional. Are you upgrading to the iPhone 18 Pro Max for the variable aperture and the battery alone? Or is that price jump the thing that finally pushes you to hold for one more generation? Drop it below. I want to know.